Okay, more on the Big U case. Of course, the most serious charge against him is taking the life of a young man out in Vegas, Rashawn R.W. I think that Big U's big problem may come down to Big Pimpin' Jamal Rashid, a.k.a. Molly Maul. Now, this may not be a part of the case. He's not in the indictment, but he's at the edge of it. So he's one of the people, when there was that footage of Loose Cannon beating up a producer for not paying, that was Molly Maul. And if you read the indictment, and there's all that stuff about the studio in Vegas and letting him use time and all that, it doesn't say it, and no one's saying it, but if you read between the lines. And then I did find there's all these Big U's court, well, USA versus Henley court docket is full now. There's a lot of stuff in there. Motion to suppress wiretaps. So a lot of information had to come out. And one of the phones, and it redacts one of his names, but you see one of the other names. So that's definitely his studio that the murder would have happened at. And who else would clean up behind Big U? Jamal Rashid is somebody he's been, you could call extorting, but they've had a symbiotic relationship. Remember, when you got the muscle, that's part of Jamal Rashid extorting others. And then you just got to break off to the big dog, because Molly Maul has been presented as used to be kind of during the golden age of pop rap, the Ja Rule 56, I don't know, maybe like 06 to 2014 or something. He was pretty big. I think he produced Justin Bieber song, like a lot of big stuff, but of course it was just him putting his name on other people's stuff, and Big U would get free studio time. And again, here's a clip of Loose Cannon jumping on Molly Maul on Sunset Boulevard. This was right before the indictment.
What is that for? Yeah! What is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you, yo?
I always tell you, when you're doing stuff, if the people around you, if there's leverage that can be applied to them, like when do people tell? People don't really want to tell just to be, especially if someone's already sort of in the criminal underworld or they have a high profile. Even regular people don't really like to go down to the court. Just not because of no snitching. It's just you're exposing yourself. You're causing problems for criminals. Police put pressure on people. Drug addicts. Detroit police was infamous for, you're a drug addict, you saw a murder. Well, we're going to snatch you up and just kind of hold you on these whole ass misdemeanor or low felony drug possession charges for months until the trial comes, but they would secretly be bringing them D-rugs to keep them there. But that's another story. So who is Jamal Rashid, aka Molly Maul? He was he was on a reality TV show, and he was kind of a big deal, but then his career became profoundly overshadowed, to say the least, by a huge federal criminal case involving a long-running prostitution ring in Las Vegas. Isn't prostitution legal there, Al? Well, no, it's legal in other parts of the state of Nevada. It's not legal in the city of Las Vegas, and that's, of course, why you have trafficking cases and etc. And Jamal Rashid's case, this is where, Big U, Jamal Rashid, they're playing in the big leagues with celebrities, with rich people, with the police. Because once you start doing big stuff, and when I say Big U is playing with the police, I mean, I'm not saying he's an informant, but who knows what anybody does. But getting money from the government over here and then being a gangster over there, you're you're playing with the police. The system is part of your overall hustle. So to be really a real gangster, I always say you have to be doing something with the police or the government. Not necessarily snitching, but like they're part, because the government is a big part of the economy. You can't, if you ain't touching the government, you ain't touching no real money. So over the span of a decade, Rashid orchestrated an illicit business that operated behind thin veneer of legitimate escort services, and he got mixed up in human trafficking, exploitation, and exotic animal smuggling.
The I-Team has learned a little bit more about why there's been a delay. Jamal Rashid, also known as Molly Maul, admitted he was a pimp in Las Vegas. He faced federal charges and pled guilty to use of an interstate facility in aid of unlawful activity.
His production credits, now, did he really produce this stuff? Probably not. Bone Thugs and Harmony, Usher, Tyga, Drake. That's right, he had a Drake song. Snoop Dogg and Justin Bieber. He had a huge mansion in Vegas. But again, he was a guy that was meeting a lot of these people as part of the Vegas lifestyle. And he was providing some of them with things, including girls. In fact, it was such a big operation. So he was on Love and Hip Hop. He flaunted his mansion, his luxury vehicles, exotic animals. Some of them were illegal. His exotic animal thing made international headlines when he gave Justin Bieber a capuchin monkey named OG Molly, which was later confiscated by German customs authority. Now, who is Molly Maul? Brazilian of Lebanese descent. Looks like he takes steroids. Egyptian. He calls himself the Egyptian god of music. So he's Egyptian, of Egyptian ethnicity, but I think grew up in Brazil. His Egyptian god of music name masked a dark and highly organized criminal enterprise. Court records and plea agreements reveal that roughly from April 2002 to September 2014. So how do you run a big, wide open, everyone kind of sees it, high-end pro ring in Vegas, where they have a big vice squad? And the thing about Vegas, it's Sin City on the one hand, but on the other hand, you know, it's a place families come. They can never let it get too seedy and out of control. And the legal brothels are out in Clark County away from the city, or they may be in a different county, I'm not sure. But Vegas prostitution is not legal in the city of Vegas. So he owned something called Las Vegas Escorts. He even had something called Molly Maul and Platinum, which were reported to be legal escort agencies. And he raked in a lot of money. He used Backpage when that was open, Eros, hundreds and hundreds, maybe up to 1,000 women. The operation was meticulously controlled and often brutal. This is from the federal indictment. Rashid categorized the women under his control into two distinct tiers: independents and priority girls. The independents, those were women he would call and send and split the play with them. The priority girls was more like some pimping. They might live in a mansion with them and give up all the money. The methods Rashid employed to maintain control over these women mirrored the psychological and physical tactics of a highly coercive PIMP. Women working for him were subject to intense surveillance, GPS trackers, hidden cameras installed in their own condominiums if he got them their own place. They had to ask permission to see a gynecologist. Rashid's control extended to the typical psychological manipulation, making them get tattoos of him or his brand on them, signifying ownership, something that goes on in that world a lot. According to testimony and court documents and surveillance, he routinely threatened them, and he used actual physical violence. And one particularly chilling detail presented during his sentencing, the court noted Rashid strictly prohibited women from speaking to black men under the paranoid rationale that other black men in Las Vegas were high chance that they were themselves trying to be pimps and would poach the girls. And so the presiding judge likened these conditions to a form of imprisonment and enslavement. Now, some shit that sounds like kind of whatever when you're doing it. Don't talk to black guys and this and that. When you're in a court and you're reading this out loud, that's why they started calling it trafficking and having these heavy charges. Like, you're keeping, at its most extreme, using psychological methods, you're keeping people in bondage. So people are upset about that. Now, how the hell did he go on for so long? Internal communications from the Las Vegas Metro PD revealed that the Vice unit had pulled up on him at a casino in 2009. He was in a Rolls Royce, and we're like, who is this guy? And they were going to get on him. The higher-ups were told, oh, he's not a priority, or...
Attorneys for a convicted pimp say they have uncovered new evidence now to bolster their accusations about widespread corruption among former Metro Vice cops.
Now, the allegations raised in new court documents are believed to closely parallel an ongoing corruption investigation by the FBI. As the I-Team reported exclusively, the FBI probe started back in 2014.
And in fact, the allegations surfaced that corrupt Vice detectives were actively protecting his enterprise in exchange for bribes, him setting up, because they got to make busts, him setting up rival pimps, and of course, spending fun time with some of the girls. This all crumbled in 2014 when the FBI and California Department of Fish and Wildlife, because he had all these exotic animals, executed multi-agency raids in his Las Vegas home. That's where the studio... Now, I don't know if he got a new house, but I think that's where the studio where Big U's homicide occurred at a young guy. And he had an Encino mansion. So if Big U's extorting him, also, maybe Big U's just getting what he's got coming, because I'm sure Molly Maul, part of your, okay, he's a big guy and he might be intimidating, but plus I got... Whenever you come over to my studio, whenever you see me, I got 3-4 big gang members with me. I'm down with the roller 60s, so that adds to the intimidation. This is organized crime. I think we see here in the blueprint, listen, if I were a rolling 60 or any other street gang member in any city, I would look towards the next few years. They haven't, well, depending what jurisdiction you're in, and haven't necessarily made as many RICO cases as you might think, but they may start piecing together people in different states and calling them, interstate trafficking of various things. You bring a girl, if I take a girl from Detroit, if she tells me, you're going back to LA, I'm gonna go out there and make some money, I'm just gonna be on the plane with you, I'm broke, just buy my ticket, and when I make some money, I give it to you in LA, and I get out there, and I know some guys that be whatever, that do this and that, and I introduce her, boom, I'm in trafficking right there, even though I may not even think of it like that. That's enough for a conspiracy. So watch yourself. If you're gonna do crime, but don't dabble at the edges. I'm not in it. I don't do favors. I'm not in it. Anything serious, you got to stay out of it. So we took the raid in 2014. There's these swirling allegations of a protection racket within the police. And meanwhile, while Molly Maul, the Egyptian, who didn't let his girls talk to black men, while he was running for 12 years plus, there were lots of black pimps getting football numbers, or in fact, letters, L-I-F-E. And some of them were handed over on a platter, probably by Molly Maul. And I would imagine Big U would have known about this, but that's a separate story. At a high level of the criminal stuff, when big money is being made, somebody's got to go to jail. That's what you have to understand. When big stuff is going on that is in the newspaper, the public complains about, and you're really doing shit, every so often somebody has to go to jail. That's just how the play works. It's like you're watching Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet. The same scenes are going to occur. He's going to say to be or not to be is the question. You selling a bunch of dope, you're pimping blatantly with celebrities on TV, police are coming. The question is, who's going to take the fall? And many times at that high level, people get thrown under the bus. Maybe your favorite gangster didn't get on the stand or sign a piece of paper about them, but they're aware that information has been given on them, because that's the easiest way to get rid of somebody and to keep your crooked cops who aren't busting you. They got to bust somebody. They might as well bust your rivals, right? So in May of 2021, he gets sentenced. He actually got, his plea was 1 month to 33 months. Like, it was going to be within that range. Just like when Big Meech and his brother took a plea, it was 20 to 30. Meech and them thought, well, we're going to get to 20. We had no violence. Get 20, be out in 15. He got to 30, but, then he worked a few years off, but years were removed because of a change in the guidelines, and Meech ended up doing about an even 20, and Terry, was out several years before that. So you never know what's going to happen. But he got the testimony in the federal court. The female judge, Gloria Navarro, did not like. So she gave him 33 months, which is a, decent little stretch in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Ordered him, of course, you can't be around, Big U or other ex-pimps. So even after his sentencing, Rashid's legal troubles have persisted. In early 2020, a woman filed a federal lawsuit accusing him of de-rug and assaulting her at his home, rape, and then so since he got out, like just a few months back in October, back in federal custody, they were going to violate him and send him back. In his apartment, he had a sex room, which I guess in and of itself shouldn't be illegal, but it may be indicative of, paid sexual encounters going on. He tested positive for MDMA and cocaine. He said someone poured it in his drink. So he didn't get sent back. He got put on house arrest. He's on house arrest now. Now, that's what makes me think Big U should be worried. If this was a movie and I was writing a plot, Big U would be trying to get some of the quote-unquote little homies to knock Molly Maul down. Now, I'm just saying this for entertainment purposes. I'm not involved, but like, that studio and Molly Maul, maybe the guy or someone working for him erased the tapes. This is what I'm getting from reading. This isn't really in any of these wiretaps, but his name actually, they talk about a studio in Las Vegas. What other studio in Las Vegas? This has been his guy that he's been getting free studio time and controlling the studio, and they've been giving each other credits on beats and all kind of stuff. So he's out, but there is leverage on him. He probably got out and got back to working often, from doing these documentaries on these big drug kingpins, people that are the biggest of all. It's hard to not get out and not go back working, because you have so many connections and contacts, and you're so used to money, and it's so easy to get right back in, especially if you've only been gone. So he got 33 months. He probably was only gone 24. It goes like that. You're right back in it. So they could give him a new case. And if they gave him a state case, they could give him a lot of time. He could end up like Ocean Fleming. You may have heard of Ocean Fleming, known on the streets as O. Stands as one of the most controversial chapters in the recent history of Las Vegas justice system. He was tied to that same corruption scandal, but he was on the bad end as Molly Maul. Fleming, a notorious Las Vegas pimp, was initially convicted in August 2012 on 23 sweeping felony counts. So this is when Molly Maul's in his peak, including first-degree kidnapping, pandering, coercion with force, assault with a deadly weapon. And the district judge gave him a crushing sentence, life, with the possibility of parole only after serving 20 years in Las Vegas State Pen. The conviction was largely anchored by a violent September 2011 incident where Fleming physically dragged a girl named April out of a neighbor's car, and the subsequent dramatic testimony of his former girlfriend, a meth-addicted prostitute named Jessica Gruda. The foundations of Fleming's life sentence began to aggressively unravel. In 2017, Gruda, the meth girlfriend, recanted her trial testimony. In a sworn affidavit, she said she'd been fucking and being coached by the crooked vice detectives, Christopher Bowman and Albert B.S. Gruda alleged that the detective terrified her by showing her photos of battered women, falsely claiming Ocean Fleming had beaten them, but they were just not random, but they weren't related to Ocean Fleming, and that he had a hit out on her. Nah, maybe that was true, maybe it was not, I don't know, but she recanted, and she confessed in open court to having an ongoing sexual relationship with one of the detectives while she was being prepped as a key state witness. Well, you're gonna get your case thrown out.
A convicted Las Vegas pimp gets a second chance after a prostitute claims she was forced to exaggerate her story. What a development this one is. Good evening, everybody. I'm Reed Cowan.
And I'm Jim Snyder. Now this convicted pimp who served 7 years in prison may be eligible for parole a lot sooner than anyone expected. It's our top story tonight. Antonio Castellan is live with this new twist in the case.
And that's just what happened. Now, in getting himself out, Ocean Fleming alleged that Molly Maul was colluding with the Las Vegas Vice to systematically eliminate rival pimps like Ocean Fleming, who was a big fish, from the multi-billion-dollar Las Vegas sex trade. I mean, if you're rocking and rolling in Las Vegas, it is a lot of money can be made in a lot of ways. My friend, when they got their RICO, they was like 20 Rolex watches. Like, there's a lot of stealing. There's a lot of stuff going on. Rashid supplied the detectives with cash bribes of up to $10,000 at a time and let them use his girls and told them information about other pimps. So once all this came out, prosecutors, Fleming was in prison from 2012 to 2018. They struck a deal. They dropped everything. His life sentence was reduced to 7 to 15. He had already been in 7. He got out. Not long after getting out, he got charged with going over to, I think, the Gruda girl or one of the girls who testified against him house and assaulting her, but that was kind of, and it ended up getting kicked out too. Now, in Molly Maul's probation revocation hearing, he was said to have had the MDMA and the cocaine in his drink. I mean, a lot of people get dirty urines. Being in touch with some of the victims in the first case. Now, does it mean he was harassing them, or they was just wanting to get back working? And also that he was possibly interacting with Ocean Fleming.
Also here at 6, hip-hop producer Jamal Rashid, also known as Molly Maul, gets another chance as a judge decides to release him from behind bars and put him on house arrest. Now, that same judge also expressed some safety concerns, though. Rashid is accused of violating supervised release in a federal case tied to prostitution rings by communicating with a former sex worker, failing a drug test, and much more. He's expected back in court in November, and a judge will decide whether he goes back to prison.
So who knows what the deep, dark secrets are, maybe, who knows, maybe Rashid was pressured to help get Fleming out of prison. It seems like Jamal Rashid is subject to being pressured. he could have helped Rashid when Rashid Fleming may have had friends on the street like, oh no, you got our boy Life, you gonna help get him out of there. So now they're half fake cool. Who knows? I don't know that end, but it's pretty interesting. But I will say again, Jamal Rashid is he's still on the federal probation. It doesn't expire to September of this year. Until that time, the feds can put him back in jail. But also, if he's back in this world of the pimps and the hoes, he can easily slip up and be given a second. Even if the second case isn't that horrible, you just got out of prison for a pimping case. You know how that goes. Like, you was selling crack 3 years ago. We gave you a break. You did 2 years and you've been out 6 months and you sold some crack again. Well, why don't we try 10 years this time, since, clearly what we did to you the first time was not a deterrent. If the studio where that young man was killed at is in fact, like I suspect, Molly Maul's, and then they got leverage. If it's not a studio, I think, did somebody call me the first time I said that a long time ago and say, oh, that's not Molly Maul's studio? Am I imagining that? Can't fucking remember. Did I get a weird call like that? But this time I saw in one of the wiretaps, there was a phone associated with the Black Rashid or blank Jamal blank or something in a studio. So and Big U had been messing with him for all these years. I don't know why he would suddenly be in a different studio, and he wouldn't pick some random studio to do something as serious as take that young man out. So will Big Pimpin' be the end of Big U, our prophet American dope?